Hey, Michael here. We're continuing our journey down the rabbit hole of Torah. You know, the more you learn, it's like what's going on in the world right now. People are finding out things that they thought they knew that aren't true. Pretty soon, we're going to ask ourselves, this is not about even biblical things, just about things that you think you know. You're going to be asking yourself, is there anything that I have learned that is true? Well, and you know what? That's exactly what's happening right now in the scriptures. We don't see it. We miss it because we have been blinded by the doctrines and traditions of men. Oh, we have so much to learn. You know, I was thinking the other day, where does it begin? Where does the learning process begin? Understanding who Israel's seed is, B'nai Israel. No, I think it's got to go even beyond that. And I decided that where it has to begin is where Yehovah started it in Genesis 1, 2, and 3. We have to learn the duties and responsibilities of a man and the duties and responsibilities of a woman in Yehovah's kingdom. And until we get that, we're blinded by the doctrines and traditions of men. There's so much to dig into. And, you know, we've done that. Little by little, we started in Genesis 1. I mean, this is where we began. But we go back to 1, 2, and 3 often because they're foundational. You know, you can't see it. Do you know that every place where it says Adam in chapters 1, 2, and 3, except for maybe one place, it doesn't say Adam, it says the man, the man, the man, the man. The man is not the woman. The woman was made from the man. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. Well, we saw last week, chapter 5, same as chapter 20 of Exodus. We saw the commandments of Yehovah. No other Elohim existing before my face. We saw what it said about idols. We've got lots of idols. Well, today, look at the very first verse. It says, my Bible says, this is the New King James, it says, now this is the commandment. We just finished chapter 5, the commandments. I would say, now these are the commandments. I'm reading on the right. You know, when I read on the right, read it on the left. Listen to what I read on the right. But look at the left so you can see where the changes are being made. I rewrite many verses so that we can see the greater truth in these verses. So he says, now these are the commandments. The mitzvah. Now this does say commandments. They said commandments. But we just finished chapter 5. We're talking about mikvot, the commandments, the statutes, the kok is the word of the day. There is the kokim and the judgments, the mishpat. This is the mishpatim. And they got the definite article before each one of these. Now, think about this. We just finished Leviticus, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers. We haven't had any statutes and judgments in Deuteronomy yet. So he's talking about what we've already learned. Moses isn't allowed to add to Yehovah's words. And in Deuteronomy, we don't see many places where he says, speak to Israel's seed and say to them. It's not there. This is a review. And I hate to say it, but there's a lot of, dare I say, perverted review in Deuteronomy. You'll see it, especially when we get to the teens. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh my goodness, so many problems. But let's continue with where we are right now. Now, these are the commandments, the statutes, the judgments, which Yehovah, your Elohim, remember Elohim, lawmaker and judge, commanded to teach you, that ye may do them in the land which ye go to possess. This is the 11th month, maybe even the first day of the 11th month. We're getting ready to go into the land. There's going to be a whole month, the 12th month, that it looks to me like they're mourning Moses' death. Looks like he dies towards the end of November, the end of the 11th month. Let's continue. I don't think I have anything more here. No, I don't. Let's go to number 2. It says, I'm going to read it on the right again. You can read it on the left. That thou mightest fear. Fear. You know, when we're talking about fear, look at the word they use here. It's yareh. Yareh. Fear. Morally, it says morally to revere. No, causatively to frighten, to be afraid, dread. It's fear. Fear is to scare you. We were scared. Remember on the mountain last week? We heard Yehovah's voice. We saw the fire, the thunder. No, you go talk to him, Moses. You get the rest of the stuff. We've heard enough. We'll do everything that you say. They were scared. Apparently not scared enough, because they didn't make it to the promised land, because they didn't want to obey Yehovah. What a shame. That thou mightest fear Yehovah, thy Elohim, and keep all his statutes and his commandments, which I command thee. Here it is. I actually put it on here. This is, which I command thee. Command thee. This is the thee. This cough says thee. That I command thee, thou and thy son and thy son's son. What did they put? Oh, they did it right here. Yeah, this is unusual. They actually said son and grandson. That's exactly what they're talking about. Son, thou, and thy son, and thy son's son. Most places it says children, doesn't it? But somehow they did it right here. I don't know why. Verse 3. Therefore hear. Remember here. It says Shema. Here it is. Hear and obey. This is Shema. Hear and obey. That's what we're talking about. Hear and obey. Therefore, Israel. And it says preserve, but the word really is shamar. Shema, shamar. I think that's so interesting. I know there's something about how those words are so similar. I don't know the Hebrew well enough to know those specific kinds of things. But if you happen to know it, I'd love to know what that is. I used to know, I've forgotten it. Shema, Shema. You know, it's very interesting how they go together. Hear and obey and guard. They said preserve. Preserve's okay. But we're talking about guard. And some of them, they don't pertain to you. You don't have to obey them. They're from the priest, but you're going to guard them. because we want to preserve all of Yehovah's ways. Guard them, that it may be well with thee. See, who's he talking to? Israel's seed, remember, that it may be well with thee, and that ye may increase mightily as Yehovah, thy father's Elohim. I got an of in there that shouldn't be. As Yehovah, thy father's Elohim has promised thee, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Yeah, good stuff. Again, he says, here. Again, still using the same word. Shema. Hear, Israel. Yehovah our Elohim. Yehovah. Oh, no, where am I? I'm 4? Yeah, I guess I am on 4. Hear, O Israel. Yehovah our Elohim. Yehovah is, they put one. One. You know why they put one? It goes back to our Christian ideas. They want to make it be the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Well, Yehovah is spirit. Yeah, this is what they do. I put the word is first. First. Now, it can be used as one. We're going to talk about that. I put hear and obey Israel, Yehovah, Elohim is first. That's how I translated this verse. But let me tell you why I translated it that way, and so you can see it. It says, because the man listened to his woman and chose to disobey Yehovah. He listened to his wife. His wife is supposed to listen to him. Bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. Yehovah, the lawmaker and judge of the whole earth, the creator supposedly said these words. This is going back to Genesis 3. I told you, we go back and forth all the time. It says, behold, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. See, they did exactly the same thing, but they added like and of us. Again, playing those Christian games. Now, let me explain. Only lawmaker and judge. Here it is. The word like and of us are supplied or added words and are not in the manuscript. But the real kicker in this is the word one. In the word one, but the word one is the word ikad, which is often regarded as one in the scriptures, but is not limited to that word. Another way that it is used is the word first. First. Here's an example. Genesis 1. Here we are again. Genesis 1. Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. So evening and morning was the first day, the Ikad day. Not the one day, the first day. But Yehovah, the lawmaker and judge, I have to say this, Elohim. What's an Elohim? We got to remember there are lots of Elohim in the world. We follow the Elohim, the lawmaker and judge. Oh, we're going to talk about that a lot today. What Yehovah, the lawmaker and judge, is saying in Genesis 3 is that the man has made himself and his ways first. instead of Yehovah and Yehovah's ways. A better rendering of this verse, in my opinion, and in the light of the chapter, is this: behold, the man has become first from among his kind to know good and evil. From among his kind. He's the only one right now of his kind. There's a lady kind, but there's no Adam kind. But he's the first one. He screwed it up already. And now, this is what the next few verses are going to say. Oh, here, I guess I have that. The man who makes himself and his ways first cannot be with Yehovah, the only true lawmaker and judge, and live forever. Verse 23 through 24 continues like this. And now, so we just read the one verse. Here's the rest of it. And now, lest he put forth his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, Yehovah, the lawmaker and judge, sent him out of the Garden of Eden to till the ground from which he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed cherubim in the east of the Garden of Eden with a flaming sword, which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. You know, this is our situation right now. Adam was created in the image of Elohim. But the boys weren't created in the image of Elohim. They were created after their own image. And that is the predicament that we're in right now. We're separated from Yehovah. So they're called Adam. Adam. Remember, when we talk about Israel, we're talking about Ish. Those are the second-born men. What's our predicament? What's the good news? Here's the good news. Repent. Leave the kingdom of your birth. Join yourself to Yehovah's people as a ger, and at Passover, circumcise yourself, all the men of your household, and become the Ezra, Yehovah's son. That's how we get back to Yehovah and become his kind. We're going to talk about Psalms 50, verse 5. Gather together, my saints, my kind, those who cut covenant with me by slaughter. That's Yehovah coming in the clouds to gather his saints, his kind. Those who cut covenant with him by slaughter. That's Passover. That's how we become Yehovah's son. We're going to learn about righteousness today. We're going to learn about faith today. Oh, we have so much to do. My goodness. Okay, we're on 4. Let's go to 5. Well, here's a big one. It says, and thou shalt love Yehovah, thy Elohim, with all thy heart. Look at the word here. Levah. Ancient Hebrew lexicon of the Bible, if you look this up, the lamed is a shepherd's crook. The bets, 2 bets, that's what it is, a lamed and 2 bets, represent kind of like a floor plan of a house. So we're talking about controlling the shepherd's crook, the house within the house. We have a house, men. I'm talking about men. We have a house within a house. My first woman, when I started learning about Yehovah's ways and Yehovah's kingdom, leaving the kingdom of my birth so that I could be fully Yehovah's, left me. She thought she knew my heart. She said, oh, well, he's just trying to get away from income tax or doing this or doing that. But she didn't know my heart. I was protecting my family, but she didn't know my heart. Yehovah, he knew my heart. He knew the house within the house. Now, look what it says. And thou shalt love thy Elohim, love Yehovah, thy Elohim, with all thy heart and with all thy soul. That word is nefesh. I think of it as thoughts and emotions. How do you feel about these kinds of things? They're different from the heart. An animal, really all flesh, has nefesh, thoughts and emotions. We have lower flesh and we have higher flesh that has turned their ways to Yehovah. Dare I say mortal flesh and spiritual flesh. That's what the difference is behind the Passover. Spiritually born flesh. But all flesh has thoughts and emotions. And then it says, and with all thy might. The word there is this word, me'od. Oh, me'od is an amazing word. We're going to talk about it in just a moment. But before I do, I want you to see what Josiah said in 2 Kings 23:25. Look what it says. Now, before him, talking about Josiah, there was no king like him who turned to Yehovah with all his heart, lavav, with all his soul, nefesh, and with all his might, me'od. But look what it says. It's so enlightening. How do you do that? According to all the law of Moses. Oh, Josiah is by far my favorite king. Nor after him did any arise like him. Remember, he was after David. I think David probably had the same spirit in him. I put together this. weareisrael.org on my site, Torah 101. Let me pull that up. I think I've got it handy here. Yeah, here it is. My site, We Are Israel. Right here, Torah 101. I've got a number of things that you can listen to that are foundational for a new believer. Then I go to something that's more advanced. Then I go to something even more advanced. The problem is people start in Torah 201 because they think they know it all, and they miss the foundation. I want you to listen to this video. This is an amazing video. Here's just a couple screenshots. We're going to talk about me'od. Me'od. What is me'od? Here it is. It's a substantive noun. I said, this is Webster's 1928 dictionary. Substantive. What's a substantive? In grammar, a noun or name, the part of speech which expresses that something exists. Hear that? A substantive noun expresses the idea that something exists, either material or immaterial. Thus, man, horse, city obviously exist. You can see it. You can touch it. But now we talk about goodness, excellence, righteousness are also substantive nouns. But they don't exist until you put them into action. Now, here's the next slide. I want to go to this one. Whoops, where is it here? Right there. This is it says a substantive, adverb, or adjective. In function, it says very, greatly, great, abundance, might, power. It is used as a noun indicating might or power. Well, you can't see might or power until when? Until you put it into action. Now, that said, look at this. Faith. What is faith? People have not the clue what faith is, especially the Christians. Oh, I'm just going to believe. I know if I believe hard enough, I'm going to get it. Folks, that's not faith. That's what you call foolishness. That's not how faith works. Yehovah has promises. We can align ourselves with his promises by becoming his people and doing the things that he requires of us. But faith in Yehovah is a substantive noun, for there is no faith without action. And for the purposes of our study today, there is no love for Yehovah without action, might, strength, mode. That is the thing that we're talking about. Let's go back to the Torah here. Here we are. Jeremiah, we're talking about the house within the house. Look what Jeremiah says. This is 9 through 10. I got it here. The heart is deceitful above all things, desperately wicked. Who can know it? Yehovah knows it. I, Yehovah, search the heart. I test the mind. What does it say? To give every man, according to his ways, according to the fruit of its doings. What's in your heart is going to come out in your actions. If you love Yehovah, you're going to have actions that are in agreement with his statutes and his judgments and his ordinances. Let me just read a few of these things. I don't think there was too many. Many say, here we are, regarding their Easter traditions. Well, that's not what it means to me. God knows my heart. They're keeping Easter. Oh my gosh. Do you know Easter comes from Ishtar? It's all about the spring equinox. We have learned lies for centuries, millennium. We have had an orgy on that day. And Christmas Day, the winter solstice. Unfortunately for them, he sure does. He knows their hearts. And he will reward them for their ways because they do not know his heart. We have to learn Yehovah's heart so we can follow him. Here's the verse. Heart is deceitful above all things, desperately like who can know it? Yehovah, search the heart, it does the mind, even to give every man. Look at the word they have. Ish. According to, there are no lady Ish. According to his ways and his doings. Here's just a couple verses. This is Jeremiah. Now therefore speak to the men of Judah, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, thus says Yehovah, behold, I am fashioning disaster and devising a plan against you. Return now every one from his evil way and make your way and your doings good. And they said, that is hopeless. So we will walk according to our own plan, and we will every one obey the dictates of his own heart. You're going to lose. Here's Ecclesiastes. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sights of your own eyes. But know that for all these Elohim will bring you into judgment. We need to please him by learning to do his ways. Such an important verse. I hope that you will take the time to listen to the We Are Israel Torah 101. I'm going to put it with the link. So if you see this link, look down below the link. You're going to find this link to the video. It's going to be well worth your time. But let me just go through some verses. Again, we're talking about loving Yehovah with our heart and soul and strength. And if we love him, we're going to keep his commandments. Now, these are the commandments. These are the words. We just finished this. I'm not going to read it again. We just read it. Now, these are the commandments and the judgments. I command thee, thou and thy son's son, all the days of thy life, and that thy days may be prolonged. Josiah or Joshua. But be careful to heed, to do the commandments and the law which Moses, the servant of Yehovah, commanded you. To love Yehovah, your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to keep his commandments and to hold fast to him and serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. But loving and obeying him, they cannot be separated. We got to remember that. If you do not keep Yehovah's commandments, you do not love him. You're fooling yourself. Oh, but they're not for today. Folks, you've learned lies. Remember what I said at the beginning of this class? You're going to find out everything that you have learned has been a lie. Designed to keep you away from becoming Yehovah's people. Most of what's been done on the earth has been hiding Yehovah from you. Oh, I could go into things right now. You would think I was nuts because you don't know. But here's Deuteronomy. They talk about this. You return to Yehovah your Elohim and obey his voice according to all that I command you today. Love. I'm just going to do the stuff I highlighted here. And Yehovah your Elohim will circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed, to love Yehovah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul, and do all the commandments which I command you today. Number 11. Therefore you shall love Yehovah and keep his charge. Do you see how they're connected? His statutes, his judgments, and his commandments. Obey the commandments. Again in 11. Obey the commandments to love Yehovah with all your heart, to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. Again 11. For if you carefully keep all these commandments which I command you today to do, love Yehovah your Elohim, to walk in his ways. You see, you can't separate it. Love Yehovah, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul. You shall walk in his ways. Where's this at? This is in 13. You shall walk in his ways. You shall walk after Yehovah, your Elohim, and fear him, and keep his commandments, and obey his voice. You shall serve him and hold fast to him. 19. Love Yehovah love Yehovah, your Elohim, and walk in his ways. Love Yehovah, your Elohim, to walk in his ways, to keep his commandments. This is Joshua. To hold fast to him and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. Well, let's move on. I want to go to 5. No, we were on 6. Where were we? It was 5 that we just finished, wasn't it? Okay, 6. All these words, which I command thee this day, shall be in thine heart. Yehovah is telling us the commandments, the statutes, the judgments, the ordinances, they're all supposed to be in our hearts. Oh, that they had such a heart in them that they would fear me and always keep my commandments. This is what we read last week, that it might be well with them and with their sons forever. Jeremiah says, but this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yehovah. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. And I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Oh, Yehovah, I want to be your people. I found out today Passover is going to be 2 weeks from today. The new moon was seen last night. I'll be keeping Passover. I don't miss it. I already got my lamb picked out. Well, I've got it. I got it assigned. I haven't met it yet, but it's born. Look at what it says here. Speaking about the heart. So it was when they came that he looked at Eliab. Eliab was the elder son of Jesse. David was the youngest. So it was when they came that he looked at Eliab and said, surely Yehovah's anointed is before him. But Yehovah said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at his physical stature, because I have refused him. For Yehovah does not see as man sees. For man looks at the outward appearance, but Yehovah looks at the heart. Oh, Father, please see my heart. Verse 7. You shall teach them diligently to your, what does it say? To thy sons. There it is. This is thy, it has a cough at the end of it, but this is a plural, sons, to thy sons. And you shall teach them diligently to thy sons, and shall talk of them when thou sitst in thy house, when thou walk by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou rises up. This is something that we do all the time. We teach our sons the way of life, the way in which they should go. Verse 8. Now, this is confusing because we have this verse and 4 other verses that have kind of the same kinds of things. Look what it says. It says, thou shalt bind them. What were we just talking about? What are we binding? Think of context. Statutes, judgments, ordinances. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Now, the Jews, some sects, wear tefillin, and they wear that box on their head. And they take this literally. And I don't think that's what we're talking about. Nowhere in the Torah, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, where Yehovah gave us his statutes and judgments and ordinances, do we have anything like that? So we have to dig deeper. And I've tried to find the things that really helped us to understand this. I put this appears to be a figure of speech, not a command at all. Here, this word 226 is this word here, 226, talking about binding them on your hand. It says mark, agree, and agreement or covenant by two, where the sign or mark of the agreement is made as a reminder to both parties. You know, I feel like this is tied. In fact, much of this chapter, I feel, is tied very closely to Passover. Let me continue. Here's verse 9. And it shall be to thee for a mark. Here it is, an oath upon thy hand, as a memorial between thy eyes. He said memorial between thy eyes. A memorial is a reminder. Zikran, memento. We're going to talk about that word in just a moment. Between thy eyes, that Yehovah's law may be in your mouth. Hear that? We're talking about Yehovah's law. This is what I'm saying. This is the context of what this is in right now. Yehovah's law will be in your mouth. For with a strong hand, Yehovah has brought you out of Egypt. There's another one talking about Passover. And it, telling your son as you eat the Passover, shall be a sign on your hand and a mark between your eyes. For by strength of hand, Yehovah brought us out of Egypt. Mark between your eyes, thou shalt mark. Here, this is the mark they got. Tufafah. Between your eyes. Mark them in the deepest places of your soul. Well, I have a friend. He's a Karaite, Nehemiah Gordon. Some of you may even know Nehemiah. I know him. He knows me on site. He wrote, the phrase which allegedly commands the donning of tefillin. That's the leather that they wrap their hands with. Appears 4 times in the Torah. Those are the first 4 times. We just talked about 1 and 2. We're in Deuteronomy 6 right now, and it's also mentioned in Deuteronomy 11. It should be noted that the difficult word totafot, which we just talked about, remembrance, right, as a thing between your eyes, which the rabbis arbitrarily interpret to mean tefillin, actually means remembrance. See, this is what we're talking about, remembrance. This is clear in Exodus 3:19, one of the 4 tefillin passages, which substitutes the word totafot with the equivalent but more familiar zikaran. We looked at that word just now. Upon closer examination, it becomes clear that this phrase is a figure of speech and not a command at all. The brilliant rabbinite commentator Rashbam Rashi's grandson, was wise enough to realize that the true meaning of this expression, commenting on the verse, and it shall be a sign upon your hand and a remembrance, zikron, between your eyes. He writes this: for a sign upon your hand, according to its plain meaning, omek pishoto, it shall be remembered always as if it were written upon your hand. Similar to, he put it on the seal he put me as a seal upon his heart, between your eyes, like a piece of jewelry or a gold chain, which people put on the forehead for decorations. It's about keeping Yehovah's Torah centered in our life, because that's what shows that we love him. Now he goes on. You shall write them. What are the them? The statutes, the judgments, the ordinances, on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And again, the rabbis have an idea where they take these things and they put them on their doorposts, and every time they go into their house or out of their house, they touch the commandments. I don't think that's an evil practice. But if it becomes ritual, if you keep it in mind that I'm going to keep the commandments of Yehovah, now if the lady's going to touch it, now you got a problem. Because the ladies were never commanded to keep the commandments of Yehovah, were they? Only Israel's seed. We saw that last week. So the men touch it. Okay, they're just remembering. But you know what? This is why we wear tzitzit. This is why we wear these. We talked about that last week. We wear tzitzit so that we remember to keep the commandments of Yehovah and not follow the harlotry to which our own eyes and our own hearts are inclined. That's why we wear tzitzit. We don't need those things on our doorposts and on our house. Now, I wonder, I don't mean to get loud. I'm passionate. I'm not angry. I'm passionate. I wonder if we're talking about Passover, but they say gates also. And they shall take some of the blood, put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the house where they eat. 12:22, and you shall take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. Again, 23, next verse. For Yehovah will pass through to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the doorposts, Yehovah will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to come into the house to strike you. I think this is the last verse. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Oh, that's the verse we're looking at right now. Again, I don't think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about keeping those focused on us. Let's continue. Verse 10 says this: and it shall be when Yehovah, your Elohim, brings you into the land. It shall be when Yehovah, thy Elohim, is talking to each man individually, brings thee into the land of which he swore to thy fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give thee large and beautiful cities, which thou did not build, houses full of good things that thou did not fill, hewn out wells that thou did not dig, vineyards, olive trees, which thou did not plant. When you have eaten and are full, look what it says, then beware, lest you forget Yehovah, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. We're still talking about that day that we kept the Passover and left Egypt. Now, look at this. Here we're talking about get all these good things after you've eaten and are full. Look what the commandment actually says. This is Deuteronomy 8. It says, well, let me read it. When you have eaten and are full, then you shall bless Yehovah your Elohim for the good land which he has given you. This is what we pray for. We thank Yehovah after we have eaten and are full for the good land that he has given us. Beware that you do not forget Yehovah your Elohim in keeping all his commandments, judgments, and statutes, which I command you today. That's when you have eaten and are full and have built beautiful houses to dwell in them, and when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold are multiplied, all that you have is multiplied. When your heart is lifted up, this is what we're talking about right now in Deuteronomy 6. When your heart is lifted up, and you forget Yehovah your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. It's the same thing. He's just saying it in a different way. Now, 13, kind of a new thought. It goes on, he just says, you shall fear Yehovah your Elohim and serve him and take oaths in his name. Well, this is what we talked about in Numbers 30. Taking oaths in the name of Yehovah. Look what he says. You shall not go after other Elohim. Elohim. Remember, there's Elohim and there's Elohim. Yehovah is the Elohim. But they're both plural words. One is a qualitative and the other is a quantitative. When we talk about the Elohim, we're talking about the quantitative, a qualitative Elohim. But when we're talking about following other Elohim, we're talking about quantitative Elohim. Paul says there are Elohim, there are gods many, and there are. Lawmakers and judges, look what it says. You shall not go after other Elohim, other gods. I wrote it here on the right. You shall not go after other Elohim, lawmakers and judges. The people's Elohim, who are all around you. We're not going to follow the people's Elohim. Oh my gosh. You know, the Elohim of this land expect you to follow their Elohim. And they can hardly imagine you following another Elohim and organizing your life to follow that Elohim. I'm dealing with a law situation right now that is about this very thing. It's part of the reason why we have the First Amendment, freedom of religion. We just can't see it. Next verse. For Yehovah, your Elohim, your lawmaker and judge, is a jealous lawmaker and judge among you, lest the anger of Yehovah, your Elohim, be aroused against you and destroy you from the face of the earth. Do you want to be destroyed from the face of the earth? Then continue following their Elohim. See what that gets you. Because that's what happens is people get destroyed from the face of the earth. Yehovah's coming back for his Kassid. Those who cut covenant with him, they're going to be raised from the dead. The rest are raised from the face of the earth. Oh, Heaven. We've learned about heaven. And oh, grandma's in heaven looking down on this. You, verse 16, shall not tempt Yehovah your Elohim as you tempted him in Massah. Massah is Meribah. It is also called Meribah. This is where Moses hit the rock because the people were so upset they wanted water. And he, to this day, I mean, we saw it in the last couple days, he's still blaming the people for him not going into the land when he's the one who struck the rock instead of spoke to the rock. You shall diligently keep the commandments of Yehovah your Elohim, his testimonies, his statutes, which he has commanded you. He's already commanded them. There's no more. Do you see a common theme here? If you love me, keep my commandments. And you shall do what is right and good in the sight of Yehovah, that it may be well with thee, and that thou may go in and possess the good land of which Yehovah swore to thy fathers, to cast out thy enemies from before thee, as Yehovah has spoken. Who are our enemies? Here's a couple things that you might consider. An unjust man is an abomination to the righteous. Hear that? When I see an unjust man, I think that's an abomination. And he who is upright in his ways is an abomination to the wicked. We're at different polarities. They can't coexist. It says the righteous perishes. No man, no ish takes it to heart. Merciful men, Enoshim, are taken away. Well, no one considers that the righteous is taken away from the evil. It says he, the righteous, shall enter into peace. The evil shall rest in their beds, each one walking in his own uprightness. People have their own uprightness. Yehovah knows my heart. That was 19. We got 5 more verses. 6 more verses. When thy son asks you in time to come, saying, what is the meaning of the testimonies and the statutes and the judgments which Yehovah our Elohim has commanded you? Then you shall say to thy son, we were slaves of Egypt. No, slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt. You see how this is going back to Passover again? As Yehovah brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And Yehovah showed us signs and wonders before our eyes, great and severe, against Egypt, Pharaoh, and all his household. Then he brought us out from there that he might bring us in to give us the land in which he swore to our fathers. We were slaves in Egypt. Slaves. We're not talking about lady slaves. We're talking about men slaves. We were Evadim. This is not women. This is all men. Verse 24. Almost done here. Let me do this. All right. And Yehovah commanded us to observe all these statutes, to fear Yehovah our Elohim, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is this day. We're alive today. Well, for our good. Look at how many verses talk about for our good. I'm just going to go through a few of them. Then hear thou in heaven and do, and judge thy servants, condemning the wicked to bring his way upon his head, and justifying the righteous to give to him according to his righteousness. We're going to find out what righteousness is in the very next chapter. Then hear from heaven and do and judge thy servants by requiting the wicked, by recompensing his way upon his head, and by justifying the righteous by giving him according to his righteousness. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. Hear that? Righteousness delivers from death. The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. In the way of righteousness is life, and in the pathway thereof there is no death. Righteousness keeps the upright in the way, but wickedness overthrows the sinner. The way of the wicked is an abomination to Yehovah, but he who loves him that follows let me read it again. The way of the wicked is an abomination unto Yehovah, but he loveth, there it is, he loveth him that followeth after righteousness. A hoary head is a crown of glory, if it be found in the way of righteousness. Therefore, the ungodly shall not stand in judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For Yehovah knows the ways of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Do you see how there's life if you follow righteousness? What is righteousness? He lays up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler to them who walk uprightly. He keepeth the path of judgment and preserveth the way of the saints. The saints, the Kassid. There's the Kassid. Remember what I said? Gathered together, my Kassid, my kind. That's my kind. He keepeth the paths of judgment, and preserves the way of his Kassid, his kind, those who cut covenant with him by slaughter, that thou mayest walk in the ways of a good man, a tov man. Men, good men, tovim, and keep the path of righteousness, that akim. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law. Even his prayer is an abomination. Hear that? People that say, oh, well, the law has passed away. Yeah, even your prayer is an abomination if you turn your ear away from hearing the Torah. Then hear thou in heaven and do, and judge thy servants, condemning the wicked to bring his way upon his head, and justifying the righteous to give him according to his righteousness. Then hear from heaven and do. Wow, it's very similar. Then hear from heaven and do, and judge thy servants by requiting the wicked and recompensing his way upon his head, and by justifying the righteous by giving him according to his righteousness. Well, I guess I'm almost done. Ye have plowed wickedness. You sow wickedness, ye shall reap iniquity. Ye have eaten the fruit of lies, because thou did not trust in thy way. Because thou didst trust in thy way. You trusted in your own way. You know, it says, in the multitude of the mighty men. This is kind of like people think that if they do what everybody else does, they're safe. No, that's the broad road that leads to destruction. We got to follow the narrow road. That's the road that leads to righteousness. Yehovah rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to the cleanliness of my hands, has he recompensed me. For I have kept the ways of Yehovah and have not wickedly departed from my Elohim. This is David's prayer at the end of Samuel. I have not wickedly departed from my Elohim, for all his judgments were before me, and as for his statutes, I did not depart from them. I was also upright before him, and have kept myself from my own iniquity. Therefore, Yehovah has recompensed me according to my righteousness, according to my cleanliness in his eyes. Last verse. Sow to yourselves in righteousness, reap in kindness. Look at this. This is a form of chesed. Kindness, kind. His kind. It's just a different chesed spelled a little bit differently, but it's the same root. Break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek Yehovah till he comes. And till he comes, who's coming? Yehovah is coming. Jesus is not coming. Yehovah is coming till he comes and rains righteousness upon you. Well, last verse today, look what it says. Then it shall be righteousness to us. This is going right here. Righteousness is defined. This defines righteousness. Then it will be righteousness for us if we carefully observe all these commandments before Yehovah, our Elohim, as he commanded us. Who's he talking to? Is he talking to the Egyptians, the Americans, the Germans, the English? No, he's talking to Israel's seed. Those men who left the kingdom of their birth, joined him as a ger, circumcised themselves, all the men of their households, and became his Ezra men, spiritually born men. That's who he's talking to. That's who he gave his commandments to. Passover's coming up, 20 more days. Are you ready? Have you even considered it? I write a lot about Passover. Here, I've got on my blog. Let me just pull this up. Here. I think Feast of Yehovah. Passover is the time of life, celebrating a real Passover. Second Passover. Deuteronomy and Passover, where Yehovah's name is placed right in the sight of Yehovah. Dishonor Yeshua with Passover. Oh man, you guys, I went kicking and screaming when I first kept Passover the right way, thinking that somehow Jesus was the Passover lamb. Dummy. No, when Jesus was talking about a man must be born again, born a second time, and Nicodemus said, can a man be born of water? Or no, can a man be born a second time? And Jesus said, you must be born of flesh and spirit. Then what did he say? Are you a teacher of Israel and you don't know these things? What's he saying? He's saying that the born-again experience is in the Old Testament. It's in Exodus 12. That's where a man can become an Ezra man. Well, we're going to stop here. Thank you for joining me today. And please, if you will, there's so many things. This is really good. You got to hear this. But if you go to my website, Spiritual Journey Begins. I'm talking about Nicodemus, talking about the second birth. I'm talking about how a Gentile becomes a ger and how a ger becomes an Ezra, as one born in the land. Remember, it's about the land and the seed, the land and the seed, the land and the seed. That's what that's what Yehovah talked to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob all about. The land and the seed. We're the seed, and we're going to get the land. I'll stop here. You guys, thank you for joining me, and see you next time, okay? Bye now.